Hello, so we're going to start with just a basic set of how we're getting set up to do some animation. The first thing is the settings and making sure that everything is set up properly. So I'm going to give you this file, which will be our first quick exercise in learning how to set keys and how to make things move inside of Maya. And we're just going to go over the interface and what the settings are. So really quick, I'm going to make sure I'm in my animations menu, which is the top left. Remember, there's modeling, rigging. We want animation, and this changes the menus to animation-centric tools and options that we have. That's the first thing. This setup I'm using is a modified version of, if I hold down the spacebar and go to my hotbox, in the top section, I left mouse click and I'm going to choose Perspective Graph, which means Perspective Graph Editor. And we'll talk about what a graph editor is, but I'm going to choose that, which gives me this, my perspective camera and the graph editor. But I'm going to change my perspective camera, at least in this case, to an orthographic camera, the front camera, so I can just see things from the front view, because that's what we're going to be working with. For at least for the beginning, just to get used to things and seeing how animation works with the graph editor, which is basically showing the motion of the animation. And last, I'm going to go to my animation settings, at least for the settings portion. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom right, and you see this little guy over here running away from a flying gear that's trying to chase him down for some strange reason. But we're going to click on that, and this brings us to the animation settings. So it actually brings us to all the preferences, but it opens up to the time slider settings. So I'm going to change a few things in here, or just make sure some things are set. So first to my time slider, where it says height, I like switching to 4x. And when I did that, you notice that this bottom line, which is my timeline, gets bigger. Now, if you're on a very small screen and screen real estate is an issue, you may not want to go that big. You might want to keep it at a 1 or even a 2. When this becomes really important is later on, when we're doing a lip sync animation and you want to see the sound waves that you're matching the lips to. So it's not as important right now, but it's something to think about. So I could keep it at 1 right now, and what's going to happen is when I set keys, which is put a set key, which is a position of where an object or whatever I have is saying, hey, at frame 0, this object is going to be here. Then it'll show up as a red vertical line, and those are my keyframes. So I want to make sure that is set. When I drop down and where it says update view, I want all, and looping continuous. Now what update view means is that there are certain points when I'm animating and I might want all 4 windows open, a front, a side, a perspective, and maybe even a top, and I want to see something moving. By default, it's set to active, which means it's only going to animate in the view that I have highlighted, but I want to see it in all views, so that's why I click that. If you're dealing with a very detailed model with a lot of history and a whole bunch of other things, you may want to put it to active because it's going to chug. But just having it set to all is good for what we're going to be doing. Looping, when we play it, is just going to continuously loop until we tell it to stop. And playback speed, we're going to be going for real-time 24 frames a second. We do not want play every frame at this point. That basically means that it's playing an animation as fast as the computer that you're on can play it frame by frame. And that will totally throw you off. So we're going to go real time. Now, if yours is something like real time 30 frames a second instead, which is FPS, frames per second, instead of 24, what we have to do is go to settings, and we're going to change in the time We have all these different options. We're going to say film. We're shooting as if we're making an animation for an animated feature, a film, and we're going to say 24 frames a second. And under animation, I'm under tangents, and don't mind what these are. We're going to discuss them, but I'm going to set that to weighted. Is there anything else we need in here? You know, I'm not going to worry about the in and outs yet. We'll adjust those later. And as per usual, you want to make sure that your undos are always set to infinite. Otherwise, while you're hitting undo, going, oh my gosh, what did I just do? You're going to find that it's going to run out, which is not a cool thing. So I think that for right now is it. And we'll just hit save. We may pop back in here later, but for right now. And then just the general interface, right? So what we're going to be working on, and a lot besides selecting an object and keying it and doing stuff and seeing those keyframes show in here, is the timeline. This whole section down here is very important when you're animating. We kind of ignored it up until now. This, if I left mouse click and drag, this is called scrubbing. Going frame by frame, this is how I could scrub through an animation. It's the equivalent of if you were watching a video and going, you know, kind of grabbing what frame or what part of the movie you're looking at, and you're just rewinding and fast forwarding, going back and forth. But these are frames, not seconds or moments. These are actual frames. And right now we have it set to 24 frames a second. Now we have our rewind, play, stop. When we have keyframes, we can use these to go back and forth, so we're exactly on a keyframe, and this is just to go back frames. This little box here tells me what frame I'm on. So if I click here, I'm on frame 59, frame 59. This is also useful if I want to do something at frame 30, type in 30, and it takes me to frame 30. Okay. Below it is my range slider, and then you'll notice there's two numbered boxes on either side. And what this is that if I have an animation, as you've seen with animated movies, or heck, even real movies, whatever, there are thousands and thousands of frames in them, tens of thousands of frames. And the simple fact of the matter is trying to scrub through them is going to be ridiculous here. Or when you're animating, you want to actually just work on a section. And this range slider, has little boxes and says it starts at frame 0. This one ends at frame 80. I'm going to left mouse click on that little box, and I can focus in on an area of frames, and I can grab that range slider, left mouse click, and just drag to focus on an area. What you'll notice is that it's saying, oh, this is starting at frame 18 and ending at 42. 18, 42. And that's basically how I can zoom in on an area to work on. So this is telling me, where do I want my range slider to start? Where do I want to end? What section of the animation do I want to work on? The numbers on either far end is when does the animation, the movie itself, where are we considering that it starts at? We're considering it starts at 0. And when does it end? So I could say like, oh, well, it's going to be about 400 frames long. And you notice that it adjusts. Now I can focus in on an area in that 400 frames and just work on that one area. Okay. When we get into working with characters, some of them will have character sets. We'll talk about that because the character later on we'll be using is character sets. Make sure this guy is not turned on, like it is highlighted blue. If you see it blue, uncheck it. We're not worthy of that power yet. This is the auto keyer, and this will kind of screw you up until you know how to set keys, because it's going to automatically just start setting keys for you, and a lot of times you may not want it to do that. And of course, where we were, which is the the animation settings. Last but not least, you also want to make sure that you keep your channel box open. When I start setting keys, it's going to key whatever is visible in my channel box. That's what's listed as keyable. So if it's showing up here when I set a key, that's what it's going to do. And when I do key something, this is how it'll show up with these red marks. Okay. So we'll go over that in a second. I just wanted to see what it looks like. So we have a channel box, graph editor, front view, and we've gone over our settings and setting everything up. And I think we'll be good now to start to get in and start animating.